So, do you think that Westside Gunn was watching Dark Side of the Ring this week, like everybody else, seeing as he's a big fan?
I wouldn't say it's unrealistic for him,
Okay.
since he. It seems like at every pay per view he's front row seats. So
Yeah.
when we saw him in Las Vegas, wrestling fan, we bought his wrestling merch.
Shit, wasn't he at All Out recently?
He was there too.
Yeah. I mean, he's a huge wrestling fan, man. I think he even I think he talked about some of that in one of his recent interviews, whether it might have been $1 million worth of game or the I-95 interview. But like he super big fan of wrestling, man. To be honest with you, I like I said before, I really think, and I think even Lau may have said this, like he really should do like a theme. He should do like a soundtrack for one of these like wrestling events at this point, just because he's so incorporated in it. And I think even the wrestlers understand and accept like, oh, who he is from the rap community.
Well, if the listeners go to our Twitter page, we said that he should do the theme for one of their new wrestling events. They got what is it, Full Gear coming out soon. He could do the theme for that. I don't think they have one yet.
That would be hard.
Yeah, shouts out to Westside. Did you guys see that he finally put a firm date on side B? Did you guys see that? And did you guys see all the features and all the producers that will be on side B?
Yeah, I saw. So is Tyler, the Creator, going to be a feature or is he going to be a producer on side B?
He's listed as a feature on side B, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did have some say in some production for the song that he's on.
Yeah, like that's something I wouldn't be surprised at when it comes to Tyler, the Creator.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting, man. Like, I'm curious to see as to how this side is going to be. Now, I got a question for y'all before we, dive deeper into this album or whatever. When you guys look at double disc albums, do you judge them as one disc at a time or both discs together?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I think I do it as both, I think. Because in one sense, I look at, because they're both, to me, even though there's a side A and side B, I know typically to me, I take that as, hey, I have these two different ideas that I want to put out, but I don't want them. I have these two ideas that I'm working on and I want to put them out, but they just aren't cohesive together as one. So, and I think that's more than likely what it is. Because let's be honest, I mean, the side A was primarily a lot of Stove Got Cooks. And then if that had came out with this, where a second side is Jay Electronica, Tyler, the Creator, and so on and so forth, Pharrell being a producer on it, I believe as well. Like I'm gonna approach it differently, but I mean, I look at it from a collective standpoint as both, but I also look at it as like, okay, what side do I prefer more musically as well? So, but in terms of like this album itself, I'm anticipating side B. I will say that much.
To answer your question, Nigel, I think the way Westside did it, I'm gonna judge these albums separately. Because I'm gonna use Scorpion as an example. Double disc, it was obviously promoted as double disc, but he released it at the same time, and everybody treats it as one album. Somebody's like, hey, I prefer this one over this two, but they never said, but you don't see two separate categories for Scorpion Disc 1, Scorpion Disc 2. For this, Hitler Wears Hermes 8, side A and side B, he got a brand new cover for side B and everything. It's going to have, when you go on streaming platforms, it's going to be separate. I feel like, to me, it's a separate album. In a sense, this is Hitler Wears Hermes 8 too, but he's just calling it side B. And so to answer your question, if it's released like this, where the first half is released 3 weeks prior and the second half is about to drop, they're just two separate albums that happen to have similar names.
Yeah.
Well, real quick before you say, go ahead and then I'll get my opinion last, Spence. Go ahead. You're good.
Well, no, what I was going to say was, because I get where you're saying, where it's like looking at them as two different albums. But I mean, to me, I guess if he's packaging them that way, I guess we have to look at it from two separate albums. But to me, I also look at it from the standpoint of he even said like, hey, he didn't want to put out side B because to me, I think side B is probably the actual Hitler Wears Hermes 8, right?
Okay.
Because I mean, even he said like this is the end of the series.
Yeah.
So like with that being the end of the series, I think, and we've seen this with other artists before where they'll take the closing chapter of a mixtape series when they're at a certain height and like we're seeing here where they're putting the best features on it, the best features, the best producers that they can. So I don't know, because I know before he was saying that this was supposed to be I think he held off on it because of all like the craziness behind the Drake and the Donda album, CLB and Donda at the time. So I can see how you look at it, how it should be looked at as two separate albums.
Well, the way I see it is like this, right? I think it's all situational. You have like situations like the Love Below speaker box where you can listen to one separately and you cannot listen to the other one. And then you have Life After Death where there's really not a difference between the two and it's just all a collection of songs. So I think that it really all depends on what the artist is trying to do. In this situation, I would give it to Westside for saying that these albums are separate, not only because of the way he's doing it, but because of the amount of time in between both of them being put out.
Okay. So how do you guys feel then about, because I understand that with like just the time of it being put out. And we all know like how Westside is big on not spending too much time on creating albums in itself.
Right.
How do you guys feel, granted, because I mean, he said this so many times at this point. How do you feel about him saying that he'd rather go in, I guess, go behind the closed doors, I guess, not behind closed doors, but he'd rather be behind the scenes.
I think that's where he shines out. I think I've said that quite a few times that I think that Westside Gunn shines as an executive producer. And I think that, you know, seeing as that's what he wants to do anyway, I mean, like, let's be real, right? Like, whenever we listen to these Griselda projects, the first thing we usually say is it's a well put together project. Whether it's because of production, sequencing, whatever the case is, we just think that it sounds better because Westside had his hands on it. So I think it's good.
Yeah, he's on a run and he's on a streak. Every Griselda, and I'm not talking about Benny and Conway because they have their own labels and it seems like when they drop projects, Westside doesn't have his hands on it. The most Westside will ever have is maybe a feature or something. But outside of that, this isn't created. I'm talking about like your Amani Caesars, Boldy James, Mac Homies. Every time he has his hands on something, it's like, wow, he's putting this together really well where people were saying Mac Homies project is in the running for album of the year and all that shit just because it just sounded really well. And I think it surprised a lot of people. Now, of course, that conversation has changed now and it's going to change by the time December hits. But the fact that people were even saying that, like in the real hip hop community, people who actually listen to rap music I think that's just a credit to Westside Gunn. For him to be behind the scenes more, I'm not even mad at it because I'm thinking of like, okay, how many more dope artists are we going to get then? For example, Rome Streetz. I know he's not a household name, but you put Rome Streetz out there. Look, Mac Homie. I'm pretty sure if you're from the Buffalo scene, you would know who Mac Homie is. But I guess you could say people who aren't tuned into like local rap, they're more on a broader scale or more mainstream. They get that little introduction to Rome Streetz. Now Rome Streetz is going to be bigger than what he was prior. Kind of like Mac Homie, man. Nobody was really talking about Mac Homie like that. He does this project with Westside. Now Mac Homie's he got himself he got recognition. Drake is reposting his songs and all, and I feel like that's just the Westside effect. If me and Nigel were listening to a ASAP Ant interview, we didn't get to finish it, but we were listening to it, and ASAP Ant was mentioning how Westside does his thing with his artists. So he stays in his lane, but he also backs his people and he backs his artists. And I feel like him going to an executive producer role, it's perfect for him because you can actually tell from Who Made the Sunshine, Hitler Wears Hermes Side A, and more than likely Side B because the list of damn feature. There's a feature for every track. So it sounds like he is really done with rap. Hey, I'm going to just spit 16. Fuck this. I am done. You guys do what the fuck you need to do. I'm going to make sure it sounds good. We're going to make sure this project's put together well. I'm not rapping for all these fucking songs. Hey, some of these songs, I might not even be on there. I might just go boom, 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 boom. That's it. So I'm not mad at his take with that.
Yeah, I mean, I can respect that. I mean, you can't do nothing but respect that, especially like you both said. One thing we have always complimented Westside on is the fact that he knows how to put a project together, whether it's him on it or if it's just the features he has on it. So, I mean, I can definitely understand that when we're thinking about in terms of the next projects, because I wouldn't be surprised that moving forward if we're just getting Griselda projects, if anything, because like you said, his artists that he has are just great artists in themselves, right? They're great artists in themselves. And even I think there was a interview I saw with Rome Streets not too long ago, where I guess this was before he had signed with Griselda, but when he was just an affiliate. And he was telling the interviewer, hey, prior to Westside Gunn, I might have 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people that may know who I am. But signing to Griselda, it's a whole landscape of people that know who I am now, millions of people. And like you said, I think when it comes to the Griselda sound, you don't get anything better. Westside is probably the sculptor of the Griselda sound, the same way that we talk about other artists / producers, even like someone like IE, like Diddy or whatever, right? Like when we bring up different artists like that, where these people play a hand, just sometimes it's not always in front of the microphone. Sometimes it's just behind the boards. So I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Westside Gunn's career, especially after this album. Because I don't know, this album, based off the features and production credits, this may end up being like this has a potential to be like probably his biggest reception in terms of projects, just because of just the bigger names that are on this project compared to the prior projects he's done.